Alright, this video is going to be for my final project for my Python course. This is my first time using OBS to record any kind of like web browser and do a coding thing like this, so bear with me. But for this video I'm going to show basically how to use user inputs and display them with it being just one variable, and then also doing multiple different variables. And then at the end I'm also going to do a for loop and a while loop and show them how they can be put in for a program that would basically count numbers up and then also count back down, and all of this displaying back to the user on how it actually did it. So just to start with the first variable, we're going to go ahead and type some of this in. And when it comes to just inputting something that the user would type in, if you just put input, that's how we basically would start. And it could display something, and then the user, whatever they type in, will put that back out. But what we want to add to this is putting our own variables. So if we were going to start with like name, for instance, could be the first variable, we would just put name equals, set it equal to the input, and then we're going to put in a prompt in this parentheses part after the input. So we're just going to put enter your name. We'll do that. Then you put parentheses after like that. And then we're going to type in print, so this will actually display it back onto the screen to the right. And I'm going to put hello. And then we're going to do plus the variable, which was name, plus I'm also going to add a little exclamation point, so we'll also display that. Okay, so like I was saying, we have input right here, and then, or we have input in the middle, and then to the left of it is the variable. That's on the outside, and then within the parentheses is the prompt, which is what it's going to show to the user. They're going to enter in whatever kind of value they want, and that will replace the variable of name. So then it's always going to be printing name everywhere for the rest of the program whenever whenever I just have name within the code. So if we just hit run, just let that load, it'll show enter your name, and I'll just put Justin. That's my name. Then I hit enter, and it'll say hello Justin, because it took that name, it put that in the name variable, and that's why it displays that. So that's pretty simple. That's pretty easy to get into. It doesn't really require too much to understand that. But now we're going to start doing multiple variables just to add a little bit more to it. And for that, it's not too difficult, because for one, you could just take this first one. Just do this real quick. And you could just do Control-C, and then add a new line, and do Control-V, and that just copies and pastes it, just like that. And then you're just going to want to replace it, and instead of doing name this time, we could just do age as a new variable. So you'll have to replace age on both sides, just like that. And then if you just want to go ahead and run it, it'll just show it. Where you'll do the name, Justin, and then it'll say enter your age. I'll do 26 because I'm old. And it'll do that. Now see, it won't still display it though, so we're going to have to change the print area. But at least for now, it already has the two variables put in. They're the exact same, just changing those two things. But then now, to do this, we're basically just going to have to add it in on their plus area. So for this, we're going to make it to where it'll actually say you are, then we have this. So we're going to do our plus and then age. So that's going to have the age variable put in right there, and that should be everything that we need for this to run. Just have to ask it in your name again, Justin, and then your age, 26. And see, now it says, hello Justin, you are 26. So it displays both variables back to the user after they put in both things. Just once again, pretty easy concept to understand, and you could put all kinds of different values in. It's the same kind of concept. You just put, you decide whatever it is, you put it to the left, you set it equal to the input, and then you put in the parentheses, the prompt of what the user has to put in for it to all go in there. And then if you put it within the print section, it shows it and displays it on the right side back to the user once they run the program and they enter all that information in. This could be a pretty useful type of thing to use. I think I'm sure tons of like video games have a basic concept of this. I can think of like with RPG games like Skyrim or something like that. Anytime you're making a character, you're picking your name, picking your class, your age, all that kind of stuff, and it basically has to be something similar to this, I imagine, in the beginning, because then it just puts it in later on in the game, because then every time a character talks to you, they say your name, whichever one you put in earlier, and they just type it back out to you. So this can have some kind of real world comparison to how it could be used. But now we're going to move on to the for loop and while loop, which will be a lot more complicated compared to this, which is nice because it's kind of just a little easy warm-up section to start for this. But I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Then now, to do this, I'm going to go ahead and start with doing the new variable. Instead of doing name and stuff like that, we're going to be doing numbers to do this countdown to make it go up and down. So we're going to be starting with the for loop. But anyway, just putting num, and this time we're going to be putting int, and int will stand for integer. And that is going to be put next to input. Let me just type the rest of this out, and then I'll explain it best I can. Then we're going to put enter a number to count to. And this is the prompt again. And we're going to have two parentheses right here because we're putting parentheses inside this. And this is like the integer for the input. So it basically putting int here allows Python to know this is a number. And it's able to recognize what it is and all of that. Okay. And then under that, we're going to put, instead of just putting like print, whatever right now, we're going to start doing the for loop this time. So we're going to start with for, and then we're going to do I for an iteration. Is basically what we're putting that as. And it's going to be in range. And range is what we're going to use basically to where it'll understand that it's going to be doing a countdown from like down and up, or however we want to put that in. And basically we're putting everything in this parentheses is going to be the start, the stop, and the count by. We're not going to leave it like that, but this is basically what this area is going to stand for in the middle of that. So we're going to replace that for now with just num. So that is going to be whatever number that the user ends up putting in for that part. But we're also going to put a little colon right there at the end. And then now we're going to do the print part that we're talking about. So it's not too many extra steps, which is nice. Now when I do this, I will put the iteration plus 1. And something else I want to specify that I didn't earlier with this. So inside this range, this num, whenever we're going to have whichever ones are being it, the name for that is parameters. And we're going to be having basically 3 different ones because showing the start, the stop, and the middle. Like that's what we're using for ours. But there can be an endless number of whatever you're doing for this type of example. But this is just a basic one in showing this. And the reason I'm doing print I plus 1, I'll show you the reason I put that is because if I take this away and we just hit run now, it's going to ask the user enter a number to count to. So if you hit 10, if you click that, it's showing 0 and it goes all the way to 9. So it is doing 10 numbers, but it's not starting from 1. So basically I'm putting I plus 1 because it adds that to that. So now run it again, hit 10 again, and now it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10. I'm sure there may be an easier way to do that. I'm not 100% sure what that would be, but for now, this is a really simple explanation that works for me and makes the program work the way it should. So I think this is a really easy way to do it by just adding that plus 1 to make it start with 1 and have it get to 10. But moving on from that, we're going to now do a while loop. So before we do that, we're going to go ahead and add a little print here. And this time, it's basically going to be another prompt, and this is just going to show a second part under the first part. We'll show now. So I'm just going to do now. We will count down from whatever our user puts in here. I'm going to close that off and then just see if it goes ahead and displays that once we do our number. 10. Now it's showing this right here. So now we can add to that and do the actual while loop. So instead of doing for, like we did up here, we literally just typed in for a while loop, type in while, and then you do your variable again, and we're going to set the variable as greater than 0. And the reason we're doing that is that basically is looking at it kind of like a hypothesis question where it's saying while this number or this variable is greater than 0. So until it hits 0, it basically keeps displaying the numbers that are being shown. So by putting this, it will make it go 1 to 10 and then 10 to 1 or whatever other number you put in there. But if you don't have that, then it's going to go to 0. So this helps make the program keep going until it hits 0. If we didn't do this, essentially what's going to happen is the number is just going to keep going like forever. So like if I did Let's see if this does anything. If I do like while x greater than 0 or something, let's see if this does anything. No. Okay. I'd have to do a bunch of prints and stuff. I guess I can do it with two. Print x. I'm just trying to show an example, basically, where it would do like an infinite loop. So there's 10, and then yeah, it's showing that. Okay. Well, I could do that and show an infinite loop, but I don't want to do that because it's going to print out a whole bunch of stuff right here. So for now, we'll just go with while num greater than 0. I'm going to put that, and I'm also going to put print num. And this time we're just putting the variable inside for print for to show it once we get typed out. And then we're going to set num equal to num. But now we're going to do -1. And the reason we're doing this is kind of the exact same thing as we did in the beginning, where we're at, like it was adding the 1 in the beginning, so it would start from 1 instead of starting from 0. This one prevents it from going from 10 down to 0. So it'll actually also show that it'll stop where it needs to stop. I'm just going to show a run of this. And then error number count 2, we just do 10. And see now it'll go 1 to 10, and then it's going to display it, and now we will count down 10 to 1. And this can be shown with any kind of number. We'll just do it again, do like 25. And then it just goes all the way up, all the way down. And it's just a pretty cool like program that can work for that. That's why I wanted to show like a second one, just to kind of give like another example of something good that could work for a program like this. And just, you know, once again, you have to add this to keep the number from doing that. But at the same time, this while loop basically is making it go down until it's false. So once it hits that 0, it can't display it and it can't run the program anymore because we have that greater than sign in front of that. But all in all, this is, like I said, my first project doing something like this. So this is interesting, fun to do. But I hope I was able to go slow enough and try to explain each part well enough to the best of my ability. But I think these are two very basic concepts that overall do help a lot and can still be used pretty well for a lot of different programs for people. But in general, that kind of just wraps it up. And thank you for watching.